If you've ever felt like you have to carry everything on your shoulders to keep your business moving, then this episode is for you. Today, I am joined by Mike Rawlings, who once said, "I thought carrying it all made me a good leader. It didn't." So you'll hear how he escaped the pressure of overfunctioning and discovered the freedom of leading with clarity and trust. That is coming up next. Welcome to the Chris Licurdo Show, where we discuss leadership and life and discover that business is what you do, not who you are. Welcome to the show, folks. I hope you're having a fabulous day wherever you are. Today's conversation is going to hit home for a lot of leaders. Now, if you've been stuck in that cycle of, if I don't do it, it won't get done. And I know every single leader listening to this you've been there, or that cycle of, I'm the only one who can handle this. And, not only every leader, but a lot of times, even a lot of team members get stuck in that cycle. Well, then you're not alone. My guest today is Mike Rawlings. He has been through that incredible, painful, and difficult cycle, one that everybody needs to get released from. So he used to believe that being a good leader meant shouldering everything, but that belief almost broke him. So what you're going to hear today is how he learned to let go, lead with clarity, and trust. Yes, I just said the word trust. Trust others without losing control. So this isn't theory. This is real. It's raw, and it's packed with lessons that you can use right now. So welcome to the show, Mike Rawlings. Mike, so good to have you on, brother.
Oh, thanks for having me, Chris. I appreciate it.
So before we dive in, let people know a little bit about you, what you do, all that kind of fun stuff.
So I'm one of the owners at Atlanta Painting Company and Nashville Painting Company. I act as our chief revenue officer, marketing guy, run kind of the sales teams. And at the end of the day, if everyone understands, like, multiple hats, so titles don't really matter, but that's kind of what I do, is I run all the sales and marketing. So,
well, you and I go way back, and you just did a phenomenal lesson at our July retreat, where you taught a bunch of leaders something just absolutely incredible. And so we go back a ways. So it has been fun and phenomenal watching you just explode in your leadership. But you started out in this place that I just kind of shared. Many leaders start in that place of thinking that you have to carry everything, that you're more valuable if you do carry everything. But there's this tipping point when carrying everything becomes a liability, right? So kind of take us back. What were some signs or moments that you realized that carrying it all was just not sustainable?
Well, so the hard part about that is that I've been that way my whole life, right? It's just throw it on, do it, get on the horse, carry the pack meat out, work hard, take all the tasks, do it all. And honestly, it really just ends up having to do with your ego. And your worth and where you're finding all that stuff. And so I don't think you always realize it. Like, I didn't do it as a intent that, like, I have to do these things so I'm phenomenal. But down deep, I was doing it because I want to look phenomenal at a minimum. And so I just don't think I realized that for so long. And so for the longest time, I would have people that reported to me, and I would basically do their job and my job. And so, not that they wouldn't contribute, but micromanaging all over it, like lack of trust. Now that hindsight's a cool thing. And like stepping in, stepping over, and the thing is that, like, at the end of the day, like, I can get it done. And so that was always the hard part for me, is that I can do it, but you don't always realize what you're sacrificing by doing it. So.
You just mentioned something, the lack of trust, which is, it's so interesting because I think a lot of us are just doers. You were raised that way. I was raised that way. You didn't have a choice. You got out there, you busted it, you made things happen.
For sure.
But like you shared, there's a point where it shifts from being a doer into, it can definitely be something that becomes your identity. Or it's like, oh, wow, I can do a lot. I can accomplish a lot. But then you mentioned the part about not trusting other people. Mm-hmm. So funny thing about that shift, when it becomes about you and it becomes about identity, then it almost makes it where if you did put trust in somebody, it could negatively affect your identity, right?
For sure. For sure. Because I would always take, if they didn't do the job as well or the way I would, maybe not, maybe there's nothing wrong with it, then it would reflect on me. Mm-hmm. And I don't want it to reflect negatively on me. And so that's where I kind of came up with the concept that it was like, oh, wow, this is actually my ego that's the problem. It's not necessarily my certain leadership skills or even teaching or delegating. It is just the ability to not want to look bad for other people.
Yeah.
And I guess I was just blind to it, you know, I think I still am in some form or fashion in some ways, but you know, it's definitely, the blinders are off at a minimum. So,
yeah, I think there's so many different ways that we can become that bottleneck where, you know, ego, identity, worth, all of these things, there are multiple facets to it. Those are some of them. But I also think the piece of not being able to let those things be affected by taking the risk of trusting somebody. And we're using the word trust here, but I really do want to be clear. There is a right way to properly delegate, right? You don't just trust you don't just give something to somebody and trust them that they're going to do it without any, digging in and making sure they're trained and all that. So that's my caveat in there, is that's not what we're talking about. It's can I trust that if I lead this person on how to do this, are they going to get it done?
For sure. And that's the thing that I realized, is that I can trust someone to do something and then verify that it's done right, and then coach little tweaks and differences and then set them free again and then stay on that. And I think that's a big progression in my leadership, because before it was like, if it wasn't done right when I did trust, then I'm ripping it right back.
Yeah.
And then it creates more distrust because there's no vulnerability in the relationship, and they feel like I just grabbed it and changed it and did it, and then the result came. So it's like, oh shoot, but I'm not building any trust or vulnerability with those team members. And so then it almost becomes contentious at some form or fashion. So,
yeah. So let's kind of hit that delegation piece, because you're not going to be a great leader until you can delegate properly, until you can delegate well. And for a lot, and I mean, guys, I've been teaching this for decades, and it's always the same thing. The thing about delegation is it feels risky. It feels like this can put you out of control. Now, whether it is with your identity or whether it's with the outcome, or maybe you're worried that it's going to screw up a client, or whatever it is, there's this risk that people experience. And maybe it's because they know that somebody took a risk with them once and maybe they screwed something up. Haven't actually got back that far in all these years of teaching delegation. But, maybe that's it. Maybe because responsibility was put on my shoulders when I was very young. And if I screwed it up, it was a problem. And so I didn't want other people to do it too.
Totally.
There just came a point where I realized it was impossible not to move forward. So was there anything that made delegation feel uncomfortable or unsafe, or afraid of giving stuff up?
Well, yeah, totally. I think the thing is that with my personality style, I'm a high DI, and so go get it done, really task oriented and very outgoing. And so it is risky. I mean, at the end of the day, it is risky to delegate, but done well, it's not really that risky, because if it's that big of a task, then you probably should be doing it yourself anyway. And if it's not, then like, what's the real problem? What is the actual outcome that could happen if it does get messed up?
Right.
It never is that big of a deal if you delegate it properly.
Case, yeah.
And if you're leading it properly and you're having your one-on-ones and your KRA reviews and your stuff. I mean, like, this isn't delegation, I think, that you talked about a long time ago. Like, you're not throwing monkeys on people's desk and walk away and then expect, oh my gosh, it fell apart.
Yeah.
Well, that's because you did a terrible job. It's not because it's not because they didn't do a good job with what you delegated. It's because you didn't delegate it right. And so obviously you have all the lessons for proper delegation and all that stuff. And so that is why I've been able to overcome a lot of those fears, is that you got to give people chances to be successful. And if you're the only one that you want to hold all the success to yourself, then you're just really selfish, arrogant person. And so it's like, man, give people opportunities. Like, I got some guys that are like fresh out of high school that, like, I give opportunities to do tasks and they're not that big of a task. And then I've got guys that work for us for 10 years that, I mean, they're bidding multi-million-dollar projects with almost no oversight, but there's processes in place and there's checks and balances and there's stuff. And so, more than anything, I think it's just, are you organized as a leader, and are you willing to actually do the work to lead someone, or do you just have to do it yourself?
Yeah. So in plain speak, you've put the tools in place that protects you. You've got the accountability in there. You've got that oversight, not the micromanaging, maybe in the very beginning of the process, but you've put the tools in place. You've put the accountability in place that you're allowed to let some of that rope out and let people run with it.
100%. And the thing is, it's not like they don't mess up. It's not like they don't have issues, but we have let's say we get to a certain stage in this delegation of this process. And then it's like, as a leader, I'm checking on certain things because it's a process and it's hit that stage. And now I see that they didn't do a few things. Well, it's just a correction, a readjustment, a tweak. It's not a catastrophe. It's just like hey, you didn't upload these docs into this thing, and you didn't, get this pricing that we're supposed to get, or whatever your scenario is. And so it never really gets out of hand if you're properly delegating it, because you have the tools in place, like you just mentioned. Like,
I got to stress this. You and I are talking about this, and it is, yeah, of course. And there's some folks out there that are going, what are you talking about? Right.
Yeah. If you'd have talked to me 10 years ago, I probably would have been like, what are you talking about, Chris? We might have actually had this conversation before.
Yeah. I'm literally sitting there thinking, because you've done it correctly. And that's got to be the thing I want everybody to hear, is that there's a crappy process, which is hey, all right, here you go. Have you done it yet? Have you done it yet? You haven't done it yet? Okay, let me take that back. That is not proper delegation. There are tools. There's accountability. There's things. And as we're hitting this, I think some folks are probably listening to this going, oh, yeah, I've been, that makes sense. And I think a decent amount of folks are probably going, I don't know what the crap these two guys are talking about. Right. What are you talking about? Accountability with delegation, right? And yet that's the key, is that it's got to be proper. It can't be done. You can't just turn something over, because that's the risk. I think that's the risk, is that when you don't know how to do it, right? And so it's just funny, I'm always thinking of who's listening and going, I wonder how many folks right now are like,
yeah,
well, I need more. Great. Come see us. Come talk to us. We'll get you more on that. But I think a bigger risk, especially, and this is, gosh, I want to drive this home. You would not be where you are now as a leader, as an owner, because of overload, had you not taken the risk. Is that an accurate assessment?
Oh, totally. I mean, honestly, if any of the leaders in our business, or Chris or me or anyone, the business wouldn't even be where it's at now. We wouldn't have enough people to delegate to anyway, because you just can't scale it. You just can't. And so, and then on top of that, personally, I probably wouldn't even work in the business anymore, because it's just too much.
Yeah. Absolutely. So
I
what
just
kind of
wouldn't do it
things,
anymore. So
what changed in your mindset? Like what habits did you start breaking, or, what did you do to get out of that constant pressure or being reactive?
I would say that becoming very organized
Mm.
is one of the first things. Obviously, all of the appointment groups lessons all stem from that, right? So, you got Asana and calendars and just all the stuff. And then as you start to delegate things, you don't have all the processes and all the tools when you start. You just don't. And if you do, cool, but there's no magic pill for this thing.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
everyone's like, oh, well, my CRM or this thing or this tracker or this AI thing and all this stuff. And that's cool. I love all that. We don't have a lot of crazy tools. We have processes that we've written, but to be honest with you, the first rendition of them were horrible. The second rendition were horrible. Honestly, I probably think they're horrible now because we're always changing them. And so it's always it's not good enough on the process side of things anymore, instead of it's not good enough just because we can't hit results or
You're
whatever
being
thing.
this is a proactive process of updating, not a reactive process of updating.
Correct. So they're like every process is living and breathing,
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's been a huge piece to it. But the organization, like as a leader, you can't delegate things and not be constant.
Yeah.
Not be you have to do what you're going to say you're going to do every single time, and you have to be there for your one-on-ones on time and not bump them out, and you have to be there to check in with people consistently, because you don't want to be the guy that's always disorganized and then micromanages. Why isn't this done? How's this up? Does stuff, because you don't actually know where things are at. And so you're super reactive. So instead, it's like, I know where let's call it 95% of everything is currently that I'm in control of, and I'm organized and I schedule time for it and I give space in between it and time to prepare. And so because I am leading myself better, it allows me to delegate and lead other people so much better.
Yeah. Which is a huge piece of the puzzle. It's how you lead you. What kind of pressure did it take off of you?
I think it took off the pressure of I feel like I used to say all the time, I can never get any of my work done. I can never get it all done. Yep. I can just never get it all done. And I'm not even saying that I can get it all done now. But the thing is that there's things that have to get done and there's things that can wait. And so I was always under the impression that, like, you got to do everything now, man. You got to do it all. You got to clear your whole entire property, Chris. You got to fence everything off. It's got to be done now. It's got to be the biggest, the best, everything. And the thing is that, like, you just need to go and you need to start and you need to get it going. And you need to be patient with people. It takes a long time to delegate things to people. If you think it takes you, a month to do it, it's going to take you 3 months. And everything takes longer. And as a business leader and owner, it's like you can do things really fast because you're the one that had the passion behind it. You're the one that, like, has got that extra drive that just other people don't have. Like, your team members will not have the exact same level of go. And so as you start to delegate things, it's like, and lead things properly with good, healthy timelines on things, it pulls an immense weight off your back. It's just like you're constantly taking things out of your backpack. You hear people go on the AT, the Appalachian Trail, and like the first 5 to 10 miles, there's just scattered stuff everywhere because they overpack and overdo it. And so it's the same thing to me. It's like, I just have too many things in my pack. I need to start taking some stuff out because they're not pertinent. I don't need them. Yeah. So,
and something that this is what I know. I've done this for so long.
Yeah.
So many folks get in this place of one of the constant responses is, well, if I delegate stuff, what am I going to do?
Yep.
And if I delegate stuff, what's my value going to be? What's my worth going to be to the company? And no matter how many times I say, trust me on this, you will become more valuable when you are lifting yourself, when you're leading people to success on things that you used to do. Don't just give it to them and then expect that they do it. Lead them to success.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's off your plate, there is so much more that the business needs from you at that point. You agree with that?
Oh, totally. Because you get to now actually spend time on the business instead of just doing the tasks. And so you can make things so much better. You can see things more clearly because you're kind of pulled out a little bit. You can, that 30,000 foot view concept, right? You can have time to breathe and be creative. A lot of entrepreneurs or business leaders or high level managers are really creative, but when they're stuck in, I have to do everything, they're not creative at all. They don't see problems clearly. They don't see ways to solve problems clearly, or they just don't discuss them and they avoid them. And so it changes everything. I mean, it changes literally everything.
And I mean, it is you don't realize you don't know what you don't know. You don't realize how much your brain is tied up in doing what you're doing in the day to day that you can't, like you just said, you can't think about higher level problems. You can't see things because you're just overloaded with what are the 47,000 things I've got to do today. Right. So once you release that need to do it all, which you've been successful at doing that, leadership starts to look very different, like we're talking about, more strategic, more empowering, more peaceful. Describe what's changed in your leadership and, what does it look like to lead now without having to carry it all?
Well, the funny thing is I had some of the same worries that if you delegate really well, then what will I do? Well, I'm busier now than I was then. And not in a bad way, just in a like, okay,
higher level.
This higher level strategy and higher level ideas and ways to help your people more and actually lead them really well. Like, it's amazing to see someone, I can now onboard people, get them going, get them up to success, and now they are finding success and figuring out how to stay organized and do things, and their family's affected. And it's like this wild, really cool thing because you're now like, you're really actually helping people.
Yeah.
Because before you tried to hold it all, and so you can only hold 100 pounds in your backpack, and now that everyone's holding it, you're holding up 10,000 pounds, and it's like, well, this is a way bigger unit. This is a way bigger deal. We can have way more impact for our customers, but like our employees, like people get opportunities and responsibilities they might not ever have gotten because I let go.
Yeah. That's so powerful.
That excites me more than anything else we could probably talk about. So,
you just made such a great point. Before you had an identity in doing the tasks, and now you have a greater identity in setting people up for success that changes their life, their family, their success, their future, all that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, that's the best feeling, right? I mean, that's when you look back at the times when you used to do it yourself. Like, I'm sitting here thinking back to my younger days, and I'm like, I was such a doer, and it was good, because I could knock things out. The amount of pleasure that I get out of helping people step up is insane. It's I think of those, the cheesy motivational pictures of some dude reaching down a rock and lifting somebody up, but that's literally what it is. It's helping people to get to a place that they wouldn't have gotten had you kept doing what you were doing.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. Like, you see those motivational things where they're like reaching down and pulling up, and I kind of look at it different. It's like proper delegation is teaching them how to stack the stones so they can get up themselves.
Oh, good way of putting
and like that. I'm not doing it for them. Yeah. So they're truly learning how to fish.
Exactly.
And so it's like, then they're learning how to make decisions. And then you're like, whoa, you made a decision on that. And they're like, yeah, and this is what I thought and what I went by. And kind of ran it through our values, and then you're like, wow, really good decision. Like, great job. Great job. Next time, like on this specific size of a decision, we probably should have a meeting on it. But great decision, like, so.
And then there's the time that somebody comes up with something, you're like, oh, I actually wouldn't have thought about that. That's great.
Oh, it happens all the time. I mean, the cool thing is when you kind of let go of the control, is you allow other personality styles to be creative.
Yeah.
And other people that may or may not speak up as much, or even someone that does speak up a lot, to solve it in a different way that actually has changed our processes multiple times on how we do things, because we let other people be a part of it instead of just being in control.
Exactly. So you've been coaching your team for years now. Mm-hmm. And many times it takes that, somebody holding up that mirror to say, hey, take a look at you. Let me help you get there, which becomes a big value of that great coaching. Let me help you see what you're doing, or let me help you see where you are. What role did coaching play in helping you see the patterns and make the shifts that we're talking about? Like, what made the difference?
So coaching with the appointment group allowed me to talk through things and be able to see that. And that was huge. And then coaching other people allows you to, a lot of times, the right things that you're supposed to do, or if you've learned the right way to do things, what's right. But when you teach it, you then have to live it a lot more. Yeah. Yep. And so if you do your one-on-ones well, or your coaching time, or even being coached, it's like you now are like promising you're going to do things with people. And so you have this, and hopefully other people feel this way, but you have this innate like sense in your soul that you're like, if I'm telling someone they need to do it this way, then I need to be doing it that way.
Yeah, so, totally. I think, to this day, I've been coaching people for decades, and I still have coaches in my life that I'm like, I have to continuously grow, because I don't ever want to just sit back and, not be doing it myself, not be living it myself. And that always helps me to become a better version of me. It's so funny. I'm last few nights, just teaching my daughter how to hit a ball, with a bat, and trying to shift that coaching down to a 6-year-old, from, what I usually spend time with, which is adults. And it's just such a joy to see when she connects. It's such a joy that if I just threw the ball, I think we'd just be frustrated. Right. Yeah. And then there's obviously the overcoaching. You could be that horrible sports parent that your kid can't do anything right.
Yeah.
But man, helping her to figure out how to hold her hands, how to stand, what to do. Don't swing the bat like you're a caveman. Swing, teaching her all those pieces.
Yep.
Which we had to. It took a few conversations to not swing the bat like a caveman. But every time she connected with that ball, the pure joy. And I think that's what we get to see. That's what you've been able to see for quite a long time now.
Yeah, and I think that that joy that you get from it is so much more rewarding than the ego hit that you did something really well that no one really was paying attention to. Right. But then also you were talking about, like, this translates down to being a like really, really good parent.
Yeah.
Or a really, really good leader of your friends, or example of things, because forever I pretty much had that stereo. Like, I have multiple friends that I know, they're like, Mike, no, like, dude, how do you do everything that you do? Like, you just go, go, go. And like, I kind of held that as my thing. It's like, yeah, I do way more than you do, And it's like, even this morning, my one-on-one, it was like, man, I felt massively convicted that I don't spend enough time doing nothing. And specifically on the Sabbath. And it all ties in.
Yeah.
It's all one big thing that ties in, and it really comes down to you. Like, you are when we talked about when I taught not emergency, like, you are the problem. Like Like, if you wonder who the problem is, it's you. Like,
always.
Just always. Like, and if it
even
wasn't,
if it's not, start there.
Well, even if it's not, you had something that you could have done.
Yep.
The mirror in the window, right? You're gonna look in the mirror, coaching, you're gonna get help, or you're gonna just look out the window, everyone else is the problem. And it helps a lot.
That's good stuff. All right, well, stick with me for a minute here. Folks, we have got some action items for you to do starting right now. So here's 4 things I want you to literally just get started. Identify where you're over functioning, where you're overloaded. What are you doing that someone else could own? And listen to me. One of the things that we always talk about with leaders or in Strat Plan or whatever else is asking the question, how much do you get paid an hour? And then take a look at all the tasks that are on your plate and ask yourself, especially you business owners who are big time doers, a lot of you as well, how many people could you hand things off that are being paid the price for what you're doing? Like, you're being paid a lot more to do something that somebody else should be doing. You need to put on your plate, when you delegate properly, you need to put on your plate stuff that is worth the amount that you're getting paid. Number 2, ask your team what they need to feel empowered, right? This creates trust. It creates insight. Don't just believe you know it. Don't tell them what they need. Get in there and ask them, hey, I'd love to delegate. I'd love to help you out on this. I'd love to grow you in this area, but what do you need to feel empowered? That tells them that you care about them and that you're going to treat them with dignity. And that starts to build a level of trust and a level of loyalty. Number 3, block out thinking time. You just heard Mike say, sometimes he's not spending enough time not doing something, right? You need to start with like an hour a week so that you can work on your leadership, not being in the grind. If you don't, and I know a lot of you are like I was when I started doing this years and years and years ago. I felt guilty. Like, I'm just going to spend time thinking and I'm just going to spend time focusing on stuff instead of in stuff. And I've got to tell you, it is a big part of why I'm successful today. I know it's a big part of why you're successful as well, Mike. You've got to find that time where you focus. You're not just sitting back, drinking coffee, not doing anything. Spend time working on your leadership. What are you going to do about it? Number 4, explore coaching. Get guidance and accountability so that you can lead with clarity and purpose. Folks, to this day, I have an entire coaching program that I do. And to this day, I have coaches in my life in many different things that I'm interested in, things that I need to learn, things I need to grow in, right? It is a constant for me because I always like being better. I always like being able to do something better, help people get more successful, whatever it is. So we have some additional resources for you. Go find episode 634, The Cost of Doing It Alone, because somewhere along the way, leadership became associated with carrying everything on your shoulders alone, proving your worth through stress and silence. But that mindset doesn't build great businesses. It builds burnout. It builds bottlenecks. It creates broken communication. Also, before we wrap up, I want to bring something up that fits perfectly into what we're talking about right now, and that is the Next Level Leadership Live event. Now, yesterday, November 10th, we officially opened registration for the Next Level Leadership Live event. Mike, you've attended, I don't know how many years you've attended. So for the folks that are listening who are considering coming to this event, what would you say it gave you as a leader?
I think it's a really, really good place to just learn about all the concepts. For me, it's helped me every year. I mean, I walk away with all sorts of things that I need to do different, better, tweak, change. There's always at least one lesson that I feel massively convicted that I'm not doing well enough on. And to be honest with you, you just get in the room with other people that know what you're feeling and experiencing. And there's outside of the lessons, there's just power in being at group discussions and social hours and stuff like that to just get to really understand that, man, I'm not the only one that struggles with this thing. And then it's a really great introduction to the different coaches and kind of seeing their personalities and who you might mesh with. And so it just gives a really great overview of what the Poeman Group has to offer. And then, if you just spend the whole week there alone, you're going to walk away and be able to change your business if you applied it all anyway. But it really is a great stepping stone, I think, into where the real nitty gritty work starts. So,
yeah, I think that's, it's not a motivational event. You're not going to come to this event and hear rah and feel good about yourself for a couple of weeks. We get deep. And like you said, we learned that we used to teach a ton of lessons. And one of the things we learned is it's a great time to slow down and have people focus on them while they're there. Mm-hmm. The workshops, the talking with folks. So folks, if you're listening and you're ready to stop carrying it alone, then if you want to lead with clarity and connection and build trust and all that, save your spot and take advantage of the early pricing that is available at chrislacurto.com/live events. Put those two words together as one word, live events. chrislacurto.com live events. So you were never meant to lead alone, and trust us, you don't want to. So you were built so that you can lead together. Well, Mike's story isn't unique, but it's powerful because he did something about it. If you're stuck in that crazy cycle of leadership, the first step isn't working harder, it's thinking differently. Let me say that again. Your first step isn't working harder, doing more, adding more to you, stressing yourself out, forgetting what your kids' names are because you never see them anymore. It's thinking differently. You don't have to carry it all to be a great leader. In fact, the more you carry, the more you limit yourself and the more you limit your team. Well, brother man, any last things you'd like to share with the folks that are listening?
No, just take your first step. Like go to the live event, do something. Like no one's listening on here because they don't want to become better. So just do something to get better. Let something go, delegate something, just go do something. That doesn't require you putting more in your backpack. So.
Amen. Well, thank you for coming on and doing this. And thank you for helping everybody who's listening. I appreciate it. As always, you have such the teacher's heart.
Oh, thank you, Chris. I appreciate you having me.
Well, folks, if today's episode resonated with you, share it with somebody else who's in the trenches. And if you're ready to explore coaching, go to chrislacurto.com. And if you're ready to take the next step toward leading with clarity, peace, and impact, then go to chrislacurto.com. Until next time, lead well. As always, take this information, change your leadership, change your business, change your life, and join us on the next episode.